My name is Leah. I'm an addict.
Hi, Leah.
Hi. I kind of feel like I'm going to throw up a little bit, but it's good for me, right? Being uncomfortable is what we learn how to do, gracefully, kind of. So I'm just going to share a little bit about my experience, my strength, and my hope. My experience, addiction runs very deep in my family. My dad died of a heroin overdose when I was 19. My grandfather died in a bar in a gunfight before I was born. My great-grandfather ran himself into a train when he was drunk. So alcohol and drugs have been a big part of my life. Recovery has not been so much. I'm from Alaska. I moved here when I was 20, and so my life there, I guess I should say my mom's side is very conservative Baptist, sweater vest wearing, homeschool having, lots of children family. And so my mom she was the oldest of 12. She took off to Alaska and was like, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want, with my dad, who was like a bad boy, biker, alcoholic dude. So I spent the first 20 years of my life in Alaska, away from, pretty much my mom running from this family over here. My dad's side, all alcoholics, all bikers, all into that. And so the first time I took a drink, I was 11, and I had a spiritual experience, super spiritual experience. It was super awesome, because up until that point, I always felt awkward. I didn't just feel awkward from my family, I felt awkward from everybody. It didn't matter when I went to school, my brothers and sisters, my parents, it really didn't matter where I was. I just always felt this awkwardness, and the first time I took a drink, and that went away. And so I started smoking weed when I was about 11. This always sounds so weird when I say it. I smoked crack for the first time when I was about 13. I moved out of my mom's house at 14 after the first time I smoked crack, because I was like, wow, crack, marijuana, heroin, LSD, let's go. This is what I want to do. Dropped out of school. There was definitely some physical and sexual abuse in my childhood. I got pregnant a month before my 15th birthday by somebody that was 30, and he ended up going to prison. So at 15, I had a baby. I got clean and sober. Had him, went to Job Corps, did really good. Then I started selling cocaine at Job Corps. I was like, wow, I feel like I could make a lot of money. Ended up getting kicked out for a dirty UA for cocaine. I think by the time I was 17, I was about 17, I had got kicked out of Job Corps, thought, okay, it's out of control, kind of got my shit together enough, so I quit using drugs, started drinking on a daily basis, had my own apartment, a full-time job, a car, my son, and I guess I was a functional alcoholic. I could still do things and use and drink, and so I did that. There were times where I just didn't know what addiction was. I didn't know what alcoholism was. Like, my dad was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I just thought he was so cool, right? So like the whole time growing up, I was stuck. I mean, even up until I got clean, almost 2 years ago. I've struggled with growing up in this family where I can either present myself as this person that will fucking kill you and your whole family because I don't give a fuck, right? Or that was a little intense. But that's the kind of people that I grew up around. And it's not really cool to be a sensitive girl when you grow up around a bunch of bikers and you got bikers on one hand, conservative Christians on the other. So praise Jesus, but I'm going to take your family out if you don't pay me back the money you owe me, kind of thing. So it was just fucking weird. It was just weird. And I lived 2 different lives from the time that I can remember. There was a person that tried to do really good for my mom because she wasn't an addict, and then there was a person that tried to be really cool and do all the drugs and commit crimes and do all these things for my dad's side because I just wanted to fit in. Like, it didn't really matter where, I just wanted to fit in. And so I met my husband. We moved here when I was 20 to get clean and sober. I hated opiates with a passion. My sister was strung out on pills and she would puke, and I would be like, dude, you're dirty. Like, you should just smoke this crack with me and put down those oxys, right? And so I moved here. I got married. I got kind of clean. When I got married and decided I wanted to have a family, I would only use or drink on the weekend. Me and my husband bought a house when I was 21. We made over $100,000 a year. I was a supervisor at Salem Pediatric Clinic here in Salem. And we could do meth on the weekend and have UFC fights and get fucked up all weekend, and nobody said anything because I was taking all my brothers and sisters shopping. I was buying everyone Christmas presents. I had 2 boats, a fucking 67 Caddy. I had a lot of shit, right? So on the outside, it said, don't fucking approach me about being a drug addict because you ain't got shit. I got all these material possessions. My life is going well. And I'm going to fucking pay you off to not talk to me about my drug problem. And so that went on for a long time. I set my husband up with a pain management doctor, and she came with a pretty hefty price. And 6 months into finding this doctor, we were getting about 1,200 pills a month, fentanyl patches, whatever we wanted. We were living in an apartment with 3 kids. We had sold all of our possessions. We had lost everything. We were strung out on narcotics, on opiates. Our rent was $500 a month, and we were bringing in about probably $6 or $7 grand a month with selling pills and unemployment. And it was at that point where my family said, you guys might have a problem. And so the first time I went to treatment, I went with my husband. I think I was 24, 23, 24. That was my first experience can I talk about the other programs? That was my first experience in Narcotics Anonymous. I tried to go to a few meetings. I wasn't ready. It didn't work. So I called this doctor that was prescribing these pills, and I said, me and my husband are strung out. It's really bad. I need you to not give us any more pills. She said, okay. We started doing heroin. It was cheaper, it was quicker, it was easier. And that's really, I had a year clean and sober in 2011. That was my first year in the program. But this is the first time since I was 24 and I started using opiates that I really feel present and clean and sober, is this time. And so from 24, I'm 35 now, so for almost 9 years, it went from pills to snorting heroin to doing heroin you know, my story isn't that different from most of ours. I was a bad mom. I mean, you can't really be a good mom when you're shooting dope in the bathroom for 4 hours at a time, you know? You can't really be a good mom when you're leaving your 11-year-old at home to take care of his 2 younger brothers for days at a time, right? Because at that point, I would have family members that would stop by and make sure my kids were okay, and so I didn't even need to go home. I was like, the rent's paid, there's food there, he's 11, he can handle it. I'm fucked up, my husband's strung out living somewhere, and I just fucking, I don't know, the first time I did heroin, I thought I had arrived. There was nothing else in my life that made me feel so fucking well. There had been nothing else in my life that made me feel like it made me feel. It was a fucking game changer. You know, my dad died of a heroin overdose. I took care of all my brothers and sisters for most of my life. I always had a house. There was a time period where I had my shit together where I thought, I'm so glad I'll never be one of those fucking people. I would never use a needle. I would never do heroin. And, 10 years later, I haven't been home in 3 days. I don't even remember that I have kids. My brother calls and says, you're not coming back here to get them. So I would go to treatment for the first time, and it was a faith-based Christian treatment center. And it was really cool because I got to gain a relationship with God, of my understanding. But what it didn't teach me was about this disease. And what it didn't teach me is that this doesn't go away. Right? So I don't get to go have a spiritual experience and then I get to wake up the next morning and think that I don't need to do this shit. And that's what they didn't teach me. And so I got out and I went to church and I got another apartment and I had got my kids back and my husband was out using, and I fucking went to church and read my Bible every morning for an hour and a half and praised Jesus. I baptized 2 of my sisters. I was leading 12-step Bible studies, praying with women and shit. And it was super cool, right? But about every 3 months, I was locking myself in my apartment slamming dope. And then I would come out on Sunday and I would be like, man, and they're like, man, you just need to read that Bible some more. Like, why don't you believe that God has taken this from you? And I'm like, I think I may be too big of a piece of shit for him to just take it. I don't fucking know. And I didn't want to come in here because my dad came in here. He made me go to meetings when I was younger, and he fucking died, So that went on. I overdosed a few times. I said, fuck God. My husband, we were together for 14 years. And he went away so I could get clean, because it was a sick relationship. And I went into an AA meeting and I was like, man, I don't give a fuck if you guys tell me that I have to pick up trash on the side of the fucking road for the rest of my life for 2 hours a day if I can be fucking clean and happy for the other 22 hours in the day. Like, whatever the fuck, I'll stand on my fucking head and bark like a fucking dog. I can't fucking live like this anymore. And I got a sponsor, and I made it to step 9, and for the first time in my life, I had a year clean and sober. And I experienced what the 12 steps does in somebody's life. I experienced what it felt like to be happy without anything in my body for the first time in my life and not feel awkward. And I made my amends. I got to step 9. My clean date was March of 2012. The first amends I had on my list was my husband. So I made my amends to him, and then 3 weeks later he died of a heroin overdose. And it was a game changer, man. I really didn't. He was my best friend. He was my higher power. And so I didn't know that the human body could really go into shock like that. But I went into shock. I don't really remember the first 6 months after he died. I went to a lot of meetings. I met with my sponsor. I stayed clean and sober for about 6 months. My father-in-law died. I had a 16-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old that all just lost their dad, that were all fucked up. And they were looking to me to take care of them, right? And they were looking to me to like walk them through being fucked up. And all my shit came up. Losing my dad to heroin. I was fucked. It was fucked. So a year after he died, I went to Alaska to go to another funeral. I ended up leaving my kids there, said I would be back in 3 weeks, never went back, came back to Oregon, spent their Social Security money on a couple ounces of heroin, and decided that I was going to do what I did best, which is fucking run and gun. That's where I started out when I was younger, and that's what I went back to. And 2 years went by, and it was a long fucking 2 years. You know, a lot of bad shit happened when I was out, and you know, it was that life. I lived under a bridge for a while. I fucking sold fucking heroin to people that overdosed. I mean, I fucking pretended like I didn't have kids, pretended like I didn't have a family. I fucking robbed, you know, just fucking stole, I just became this person that just wanted to fucking die, and I didn't give a fuck. I would do a hit of fucking dope, and I would beg God to fucking take me out of this fucking place, because I could not quit using, and I could not live without using. And so what are you left with? So within that 2 years, I put myself in detox 7 different times, trying to fucking get it. You know, I would go into these meetings and I would see people that knew me when I got sober before, and they would be like, just surrender. And I would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm in this meeting. Like, I haven't killed myself. That's about as much surrender as I have. So I don't really know how I surrendered. I really think it's cool when people can say, here's how I surrendered A, B, and C, but that's not my story. I just didn't fucking give up. Like, I didn't give up no matter fucking what. And there were these moments when I was out using that I call little moments of grace that lasted maybe 30 seconds, where I was able to make a decision that was doing something other than getting a bag. So maybe it was make a phone call to call my mom and let her know I was okay. Maybe it was making a phone call to get her right to detox, whatever it fucking looked like. I died of a heroin overdose the last time I used. And obviously they brought me back. And what I remember from that situation is hearing them say, she's been gone for 2.5 hours. We've been doing CPR for 2 hours. She's gone. We either need to call an ambulance or we need to move her body, right? Because when you overdose in somebody's fucking house, that's what happens. You know, they're not like, man, I sure am sad my friend overdosed. We should probably call their family. You know, that's not how it goes. No matter how fucking tight you are, no matter how much you got each other's back, that's just not the first thought. I mean, at least not where I was at. So that's what I remember out of a 24-hour period. They did CPR. There was a lot of other shit they did. They had to keep moving me around for about 7 hours. Anyways, this is all what they told me. So when I wake up 24 hours later, my response is, man, I'm fucking tired, man. I'm sick as fuck. I haven't had any heroin in like 24 hours. I need to go get high, right? So I wake my friend up who's sleeping on the floor guarding me. I'm like, dude, we need to go get some dope. Like, it's been a minute, you know? I really don't know what happened. All I remember is the last time I did heroin, I had a really bad feeling like this was going to be it. And now I'm waking up and I'm sick, and the only thing I can think of is getting more so I'm not sick. And my friend looked at me and he fucking started crying, and he was like, I'm going to take you to detox. And I was like, okay. And so I went to detox. And at this point, I was on the run from drug court. I had gotten it. Drug court had offered me drug court at some point in this game, right? And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I want drug court. 48 months or drug court? Absolutely, it was fucked. It was fucked. They let me out, and I was like, and then they got me again. And every time they'd get me, I'd have to transfer from 3 different counties because during my 2 years out, I had fucking just been on the run pretty much from everyone. And so it was just this cycle. I came into drug court one time. God, it was fucked up. They were looking for me, and I don't know what happened, but I'd been up for like 6 days, and it was bad, dude. It was like, it was rough. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I had been up for 7 days. I just knew that I needed to get to fucking drug court. I just knew I needed to get there. So I got a ride, and on the way there, I did a shot of heroin thinking that it would help me stay awake even though I had been up for 7 days. I had no fucking, I don't even tell people this story because it's so embarrassing. I had no shoes or socks on. It is like 80, 90 degrees. It was hot as fuck. I have a rig and a spoon in my hoodie. I'm like, I gotta be there by 10 o'clock. I gotta be at fucking court by 10 o'clock. I fucking get up to the security. I realize I have a rig and a spoon in my hoodie. I go back down to the smoking receptacle. I fucking put my rig and my spoon in this fucking receptacle, and I go up there. I fucking fall down right outside the courtroom, and I've never cried like that before. I was crying so hysterically, saying, I just need help. I just need fucking help. That they had to dismiss drug court. They had me come in there with no shoes or socks on. The judge was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, my fucking husband died, and I just want help. Like, I look back and it's just like, fuck, it was so different. They arrested me. They didn't give me new charges. Anna from Bridgeway, the counselor, came to see me in jail and told me her story, like I'm telling you guys right now, and told me that there was a way out and that if she could do it, that I could do it. And so I got out. Wish I could say that I got out and didn't get high again, but I was like, okay, don't fucking that's why they don't let people out of jail right now in drug court. They quit letting people out. But they let me out. I went on the run again, overdosed, almost died, went to treatment, went to detox, came back, and worked through a lot of shit in treatment, a lot of PTSD, a lot of trauma, a lot of grief and loss. And then I came back here, and what I can say is that it's not about whether or not I can pick a higher power, because it's like step 1, we admitted we are powerless, that our lives are unmanageable. What step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand Him. And my conception of what a God is you cuss, you're going to fucking hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, you do anything wrong, you're going to hell. And I'm like, well, I'm a fucking junkie. You know what I mean? I've done some shit, and so what does this look like in my life? And what I got to do is I got to come into these meetings, and I got to connect with people that were actually working a program, not people, I don't want to say that. That's not very nice. I gotta listen to what people had to say. And here's the thing, in a room full of 15 people, if one person shares that they've experienced the kind of fucking hell that I've been through, then I know that they know where I've been. But then after that, which was really weird when I first came in here, they would be like super happy, right? They'd have all this time clean, and they're like, yeah, I wanted to kill myself. And so I would connect, but then they would talk about how their kid's graduating and they're getting fucking, it's just weird. It's just weird because you know that they've been where you've been, and they're happy now, and they're doing it. And they say this thing about doing the steps, And you're like, yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, I totally do the steps. Yeah, for the first 2 months I was here, I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm a step doer, you know? That's what I do, right? Because we fucking, I mean, like, I'm a chameleon. It doesn't matter if you're Mary fucking Poppins, I'll fit in. You know what I mean? You'll think I'm your fucking cousin after like 20 minutes. So I came in here and I was like, yeah. Just saying what everyone's, absolutely. I have freedom. I didn't know. I just knew that I wanted what people had. And it wasn't until I started doing things differently. Everything that I do, even today, I did something that was different. My first thought of what I think I should do, because where I think and what I think I should do to stay clean and sober doesn't fucking work. It just doesn't work. It does not work. So I listened to some women that were like, you should call other women in the program. I was like, I feel like you're a word that starts with a C that I'm not allowed to say. Because I'm not calling any fucking women. And I'm not doing anything that you guys tell me to do. But when I actually started doing that, not just going to meetings, not just going to barbecues, not just going to campouts, not just calling women, but when I started doing those things and I started meeting with a sponsor and I took these steps, that's when my life started changing, is when I took these steps. When I started putting in as much work to these steps as I did using, that's when everything started changing for me. And it's changed my life, and I never thought that I would be clean and sober. I thought I was gonna die out there. I never thought that the obsession to get fucking high would go away completely, and it has. You know, it has for today. And so Friday night, my 14-year-old, I took him to a meeting in Staten. Oh, God. When the meeting was on, my kids just moved back in with me 2 weeks ago. And so I have some fucked up kids. Their dad died of a heroin overdose and their mom fucking took off, right? We've been going to counseling every week for 8 months. They moved in with me 2 weeks ago. We're in a meeting on Friday night with my 14-year-old because he likes to run his mouth and get grounded. So I'm like, oh, well, you get to go to a meeting. Halfway through the meeting, he almost fucking passes out. Like, he cannot even walk. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I don't know, I can't see. I'm like, okay, well, and here's what I've learned in this program. So in that moment, right, I have to fucking put my arm around him and pretty much carry him out to my car. My fucking 14-year-old, right, who looks just like his dad who overdosed on heroin. Anyways, super cute. But I have to fucking walk him out to the car, dude, and I'm fucking shaking. I'm so scared. I'm like, what's wrong? Did you drink water today? And he's like, I mean, he cannot even fucking walk. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take you to the emergency room. And here's where this program steps in. More than I can say that the connections, because the connections I've gained in here are so good, and the meetings are so good, and they're vital. But here's where taking these fucking steps, when the fucking rubber meets the road, I put my son in the car. He's going to pass out. I'm ready to take him to the emergency room. I have no idea what's going on. I don't have 15 minutes to say, hold on, son. I need to call my sponsor and find out what I should do. Right? I can't call my friend Jessica and be like, I'm fucking scared right now, and so I need a woman to talk to. I don't have time to do that. But what I can do, and what I've learned in this program, is I can turn and I can close my eyes and I can take a deep breath and I can say, God, I need you to be with me right now and I don't know what to do. That's what I can do. And that's what this program has given me. I mean, it's given me friends, which is cool, and it's given me stuff, which is cool, and it's given me social life, which is cool. But the bottom fucking line is that when he was sitting in that car, I had one thing matter. So I get in the car, make a long story short. I get in the car, I ask him, have you done drugs? He tells me. I say, you know, you will have no consequences for what you tell me right now, but I need to know what you took, if you took something. You know, and I got to keep my word. So if he tells me that he got high, I can't give him, I don't even fucking know what to do, right? So he tells me he fucking robo-frying. It's been around for a long time. Anyways, he took all these fucking all these fucking Robitussin pills, you know, and I'm like, how many? I'm thinking it's gonna say 2 or 3, right? He's like 6. I'm like, hold on, I'm Googling it. Oh my God, I'm seeing all this shit, all these kids online that are like, I'm 14 and 125 pounds, and here's how many of these I take, and I can buy them over the counter, and if you really want to fry, and I'm like, okay, don't focus on this, just focus on, like, be present in the moment, right? And so it ends well, right? I don't end up having to take him to the emergency room. It was one of the hardest things that I've had to walk through since I've been clean and sober. And I got to call my sponsor, and I got to connect with him. And it's been a really long few days at a women's meeting at my house last night, right? So it would be really easy for me to say, oh my God, I have all this shit going on in my life, and I don't have time to have this meeting. I don't have time to connect with these people. I don't have time to do these things. And the bottom fucking line is I have to do those things. I have to do those things. Because if I don't do these things, then I don't get to be there for him when he's fucking on drugs, right? I don't get to carry any kind of message to him. I don't get to do shit with anyone, for that matter. And so I fucking had a women's meeting at my house that I was like, I'm going to start this women's meeting all summer, right? Every Wednesday. Fucking come Tuesday, I'm like, I'm not doing this shit. Fuck this. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to fucking have a fucking... It was the most amazing... It was so good, dude. It was so good. So, the gifts that I've gotten from these programs are how to live life on life terms while leaning on something other than myself, which is my higher power. And that's how I'm still clean today. And that's how I'm still here today. So, thanks for letting me share. That's all I have.